because people will get into the habit of digging in, not spending the money, not making any new investments, not wanting to move to a bigger house, all these things will go away from people's minds. Just dig in and try to survive will become the mode if it lasts for more than a year, year and a half or 2 years. So, I only hope that the scientific community will be able to come out with some kind of, confidence for the governments to take decisions and the businesses to take decisions, and for people to feel more confident as to what exactly are they risking. Right now, most human beings, though there is so much information out there is no absolute clarity what is it that we are risking, who is risking their lives, who is risking their health. There is no such thing because all sorts of things are happening around the world. As you see, in a country like United States, it's just gone totally off, nearly 100,000 people dead as of today. So, industry, particularly building industry, where it is for a ordinary citizen, it is a substantial investment in his life. In India especially, most people buy only one home in their lifetime. When that is the case, definitely this industry will suffer quite a bit. But at the same time, there are massive possibilities that industrial growth can burst forth in the next 1.5 to 2 years' time, considering the geopolitical situations and what may come towards India, and India is pitching for that possibility right now, which is definitely a good possibility, and we are standing number one in that line where certain industries want to come out of a particular nation and go elsewhere. So if that begins to happen, there will be a massive amount of construction. When I say construction, especially industrial construction, road construction, and obviously residential constructions around that. So for this, I think the way we are approaching real estate industry has to rejig itself in our mindset, because then this will all be concentrated construction in areas where these special industrial zones are coming up. There are big plans for this because nearly 300 companies from China want to move out completely or partially, and a whole lot of them can come to India. And right now there's an effort to move this to all the 28 states so that development happens in an even way across the country. If such a possibility opens up in a big way, what they're looking at is somewhere between $1 to $1.5 trillion of investment should come into India in the next 2 years' time. If that happens, there will be a phenomenal amount of building industry to happen, but not necessarily the way it is happening right now, that you get a prime site in the city and build your apartment blocks and stuff. From there you have to shift to… from being just a building and builder, you must become a nation builder.
Sadhguru, you did give us the worst and the best case scenario. I mean, I just leave it with a thought before I move to Jakshay, that
Somebody starts making predictions, this will not be a judicious prediction, this will be astrological. So let's not go that way. It's important, this is the reality in which we exist. If all of us strive, we can make this happen, otherwise no.
I do understand that, Sadhguru, and like I said, you've given the worst and the best case situation, but just leaving it with a thought before I go on to Jakshay, that the government has done extremely well to take care of the physical health of the people, but the mental health, due to the financial constraints, and the social health of the people might be something that a lot more needs to be done for. Having said that, I'll move to Jakshay. Jakshay is the chairman, Credai. Jakshay, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, first of all, Namaste Pranam. I know with a lot of responsibility from Credai MCH and Narirko, my friends, and a lot of humbleness, I can say that we are not beneficiary of the system, but the victim of the system. Anyway, but I know that this is a toughest time to be a leader or to be a decision maker. But we at Credai, more than 20,000 members, 207 city chapters, we state of a lot of anxiety and restlessness. So my question would be, we as leaders do spread maximum positivity to our industry, brothers and staff members. But at last there is a vast difference between the optimism versus reality because of what's coming as an industry assistance from the government in terms of big ticket economic support, which is very necessary for our survival or our members' businesses. Guruji, how do we as Credai leaders enthuse or guide our members who believe that the end is very close and may just give up their fight for survival? What would your guiding thoughts and words to keep them in a healthy mental balance? And because I know you and I'm at the golf course now, I can take that liberty, Burman, if you have permission.
That's what I'm saying, you're on a golf course and talking about difficult times, huh? You're having a bad game.
So, Guruji, the staying active and fit are integral to living healthy lives and beating pessimism. As we know, you have some passion for golf and sports and about also. What do you suggest we practice to further our stamina and dedication? Thank you.
Well, as you said, the administration can only function within the limitations of its own resources. There's nothing more or less that we can do. But having said that, the problems of real estate will not be about loan restructuring or banks and things, because those things can be negotiated. I'm sure there's going to be a whole new world of negotiations. But the problem is of demand, that because your demand doesn't depend on how much you can build, your demand depends on how the rest of the industry and the economy functions, that people should have money to invest in a home or in a new office space or whatever that is. So, creating demand is something that the government is looking at in a very serious manner. And as I said, we are looking… because right now, without a massive foreign investment coming into the country, it's going to be difficult for us to come out of this quickly. It will take a long time to come out of it if we don't get a huge amount of foreign investment. Right now in India, foreign investment just comes to Mumbai, plays in the stock market when it's convenient, otherwise it goes away. No, foreign investment must come into construction, must come into bridges, roads, ports and whatever else, or even residential properties and commercial properties, it needs to come in. These bold steps have to be taken. I think already a few steps have been taken, because in trying to be bold, we don't want to lose our judiciousness. So that is always there. So about yourself, keeping your stamina, don't use those carts in the golf course, just walk it, huh? 18 holes, if you walk it, you will get physical stamina. Mental well-being mental well-being, I think every one of you should take this up. This is a good time. That is simple processes. We are offering various things available to you, various simple practices like Isha Kriya, Simha Kriya, which enhances your immune system. These are all available as free downloadable processes. Otherwise, I would… I can send the link to all of you if you wish. There is inner engineering online being offered. This is a simple way for people… See, this is all. There are various aspects to this. One thing is our body, how our body should function, how our mind should function, how our emotions should function, how our basic life energy should function. If these four things are happening well within us, then our ability to create the outside situation is greatly enhanced. If our body doesn't take instructions from us, mind doesn't take instructions from us, our emotions are sloshing all over the place, our energies don't behave the way we want, then our ability to create what we want will become greatly crippled. When we face challenging situations, what it means is, we are facing a situation which is not a simple situation that we have to struggle to deal with it, or in other words, the outside world in some way has become challenging. When outside is a challenge, you should not become a challenge by yourself. For most human beings, their own thought and emotion is a big challenge. They don't need any enemy from outside. They don't need a virus actually. They can sit at home, they can walk on the golf course and freak. I see so many people doing that. They're playing a game but they're losing their mind doing that. simply because the way you think and feel is not controlled by you. So this inner engineering process, the whole process involves all the four dimensions of body, mind, emotion and energy, but the online process handles just thought and emotion. If you can think and feel the way you want, being blissful and joyful is a natural consequence. So how can I be blissful in a crisis? Especially in a crisis, you must be blissful because in a crisis means your body, your brains must function at its best, not be paralyzed. If you're in anxiety, if you're in fear, if you're in those kind of things, you get paralyzed. So there is substantial scientific and medical evidence to show that only when you are in a state of some kind of pleasantness within you, your body and your mind functions at its best. In many ways, how well you harness your body and your brains is your success in the world, in many ways. Not the whole of it, at least to a large part, that's what it is. So it's important that everybody does a little bit of inner engineering within themselves, bring themselves to a state when there is a challenging situation, your faculties don't fail you. When there is a challenging situation, you yourself do not turn against yourself. Whatever this anxiety, stress, fear, terror, whatever it is, you can give it any number of names, but essentially it is about your intelligence turning against yourself. Once your intelligence turns against yourself, there is no force in the universe that can do any good for you. So this is important, that your intelligence always works for you, never against you. So you may say, no, I'm stressed because of my business. You are not stressed because of your business, you are stressed because you do not know how to handle your thought and emotion. This is what inner engineering means. You learn this fundamental thing, that your thought and your emotion is never an impediment in your life. There are substantial challenges outside, let's deal with them.
That's Sadhguru, we will definitely make sure to tell all Kridai members they need to build themselves up, because the strongest force that comes from within is the only one that's going to help us at this moment in time. May I request all panelists to please speak up a bit? There is some kind of a feedback that we need to speak up louder. Next, I'd ask Dr. Niranjan Hirandani to ask his question. He is the National Chairman, National President, NAREDCO.
Namaskaram, Guruji. It's such a pleasure and privilege to be here today. You know, I'm a great to bring back India into the forefront in terms of rejuvenation of life by itself.
Okay.
Guruji, we as builders have a great vision about our cities, as all people would love to do as nation builders, and you have given us this kind nomenclature of saying that we should be nation builders. But what have we done? Our great cities have actually turned into slums. 50% of our people living in a city, which is the richest city in India, has got 50% of them live in jhopatpattis. Our infrastructure is collapsing. Roads, transport are just not there. Can you, Guruji, give us some idea of what you think should be our vision and the roadmap? Because we may dream a lot of things, but what's the first steps that we really need to do in order to make this change, wherein our great cities, which we always had, would actually turn back and really become great cities again? Maybe the same idea as rejuvenating of rivers and bringing about some concept. Maybe you could guide us and tell us what this kind of vision should also be there, so that before the end of my life, I take the first step in that direction.
The first step what's the full name? I'm sorry, Hirnandani? Niranjan. Niranjan, the first step that needs to happen is… Let me give a little context before I say this. See, today it's estimated that about 76 to 78% of the world's investment is in actually 32 cities in the world. That means investment is so focused in some places, naturally people tend to move in that direction. Before the virus, the estimate was In the coming decade, that is by 2030, in the world, 1.6 billion people will migrate. In India, 220 million people will migrate in the next 10 years. Tell me which city is capable of mopping up that kind of population. As you're saying already, in Mumbai, 42 to 44% of the population is living in slums. But it's not just Mumbai, I want you to understand the whole country is a slum. If you come to the villages, you will see the whole nation is living as a slum. This is simply because it is unplanned and it simply happened over a period of time. We are an ancient nation, simply it's grown like that. So, at some point we must have the courage to replan and redesign the country, not just go on living the same way. So as a part of this, I have given these plans to some of the builders. Well, in the international forums, I have presented this, hugely appreciated everywhere, but nobody has done it yet. So, Niranjan Bhai, if you are willing to do it, let me talk about it. I'm promoting a concept called one building city. Just one building, a city. For example, I'm just throwing the numbers off the cuff, you can reimagine the numbers based on various other realities. Let's say we take 50-acre plot. It need not be within the city, you can put it out 50 kilometers away from the city, even up to 100 kilometers, anywhere between 50 to 100 kilometers you can go. 50-acre plot, land-wise it will come cheap compared to what you pay in cities. Now in these 50 acres, you build only 1 acre, 2 FSI is anywhere there, so you build, nearly 100 floors you can build if you want. 49 acres of land, you just make it into trees, ponds, walking spaces, beautiful atmosphere like a forest for people to live there. In these 100 floors, you can make residential accommodations, offices, shopping, school up to 7th standard, 8th standard, after that they can go out. Generally, people who live there, just live there, work there, everything there, they shop there, whatever. Once a week if they wish to drive their automobile out, they can go. No waste, no input, everything generated there and everything done there. No question of sewage going out, nothing, everything can be managed right there. Above all, people will get to live in a verdant atmosphere, forest. Right now, look at the way our children are growing up. How do you expect them to grow up as sensible human beings? If they step out of their homes, they are walking straight into the traffic. There is no place to play, there is no place to kick a ball, there is no place to run around. There is nothing, they're just cooped up in their apartments, watching televisions or, people are saying, why are they all watching on the screen? Tell me, where is space for a child to go and run carefree? If he runs carefree, he will get killed within 2 days. It's happening all the time. So, we need to build cities like this. This is very much possible, particularly if you can sell it to the idea to, let us say, an IT companies are the easiest to go for. An IT company can build residentials, working spaces, shopping, schooling, everything right there, and 49 acres of just forest, never to be tampered, because anyway you complete the 2 FSI, it's a done thing. Whether it can be 50 acres or 25 acres, but the same proportion if you go for. And the villages, right now a local village here, close to us, with a population about 6,000 people, it occupies anywhere between 15 to 20 acres or 22 acres, somewhere in that range. This village, the conditions in which they are living, human beings, animals, everybody living together, we can build a city like this for them, a village which is tall. Only thing is, they must come together. How to bring them together? Can you bring all these people together? If we set up 1 or 2 examples and people see that they can live way better this way, they can be cattle shed separately, animals, people can live in apartments, about ownership and other things, we can sort out all those issues. If this is done, this is the only future for us, because for 1.4 billion people, we don't have enough land to build independent houses all over the place. That is only for a small percentage of people. Rest of them will anyway have to live in tall buildings, but now there are 1,000 rules about everything and it doesn't go. To escape these rules, people are building shorter buildings all over the place. So this has to change, and if we make one city, one building is one city by itself. In a building about 5 to 10,000 people live, that's a city by itself. This city doesn't drive out every day, except a few people who have to go out Most people work there, live there, go to school there, everything is settled there. Once in a way, just for their, whatever their own pleasure and joy, they want to drive somewhere, they can always drive. If we don't do this, right now everybody wants to own a car. Every car manufacturer his dream is to sell at least one car to every family. If every family in the country has one car, where will you build the roads? You will have to do flying cars, all right? There is not even enough airspace, I'm telling you. Our population is such. Once we have such a population, we have to think differently. It's very, very important. Right now, we're busy building airports and airports. I'm not against it, but in India, right now, 2 hours ahead, you have to go to the airport and do all that things. I decided I will rather ride my motorcycle to Mumbai than go to the airport, wait there for 2 hours, go through all those tests, wear a mask and sit like you're going into space or something. I'm not going to do that. I'm saying, if every highway that you're building, in the center if you put a rail line, and people are asking, do we need bullet train, do we need that? We need something faster than a bullet, if you ask me. Because for 1.4 billion people, you are not going to fly them. You're trying to imitate the American model, it's just silly. You cannot fly 1.4 billion people. The best way to transport them is always rail, because rail is a mass transport. The faster you make it, suppose Coimbatore to Bangalore, if you build a rail line, which is just 350 kilometers, if you can do it in 1 hour, the development will happen all along. Even if you stop in 5 different places and take 1.5 hours, people will work here, there, and along the way, the whole thing will develop. Unless we spread this, unless we spread the investment and in turn the development, there is no way. Right now, these proposals, we've given it to the government also, talking about how industry should spread all over the place. This concentration has created this migrant population, and you have seen the disaster, how they are going through their lives. And over 5 crore labor is working for your industry. And I think a whole lot of migrant labor walking back are also these. Why have they left their villages, their homestead and come here? Simply because there's no livelihood there. We need to create it right there as much as possible. A small number coming is okay. Such a massive population moving means there is such degradation of life, especially for women and children of those families. It's terrible what they go through. Once they come to the city, they may have little more money, but the quality of their life and the basic dignity of their existence, which they had in the village even if they are very poor, is completely taken away once they come to the slum. Dehumanization of a human being happens, and that is not the way we should build this nation. It's… all of you should plan, I'm just giving you a simple idea, but we must look at this, how we must live more vertical spaces and more more forested areas around us. Everybody should have access to some kind of nature. So every child should hear bird calls and see animals running, doing this, doing that, all this must happen. Otherwise, we will not grow a healthy nation. It's very, very important to do this now.
Sadhguru, thank you for that. Actually, my DG Credai…
My next project will be like that.
Well, thank you, Niranjan Bhai. So, Sadhguru, just very quickly, I'd like to, before I bring Irfan Bhai to ask you the next question, I'd like to just say my DG Credai has actually reached out to me to put in a request to you. With your tremendous knowledge and with your grip on facts, you knew that 5 crore people are working for the real estate industry in terms of the migrant laborers. He has put in a request to me, and I'll just put it across to you. He says, we need a voice like yours, which reaches at the very top to be able to get clarity of policy that will allow us to create these visionary developments. And towards that, Sadhguru, any time and any effort that you put in will be appreciated by all my fraternity. And towards that, with folded hands, I request you.
Beyond this conference, let's have a conversation and see what we can do.
Thank you. I would like to call on Irfan Bhai, who's our ex-chairman Credai, to ask the next question.
Namaskaram, Guruji.
What, you opened up the golf course, huh? The last day
Yes.
before you closed, I played at your place and then left.
It was a pleasure playing with you too. And the golf course is open now, Guruji. Actually, it's a real pleasure for me to be on your panel and listen to your words of wisdom. You have this very simple, effervescent style of explaining very complex situations in your very own calm and composed manner. Guruji, just now, people have developed a fear psychosis. There's a fear of the unknown, and this is leading to huge anxiety and different reactions. In this background, businesses also have to make difficult choices and even take the extreme step of letting go of people who have been with them for a very long time. And we are always in this conundrum of between the seva bhav and the dharma. How do we resolve this dilemma in our heads? How do you think we should react, and how do you think that we should also take decisions?
Well, in challenging times, many times we are forced to make hard decisions. Hard decisions means, when initially when it took off in Italy and Spain, the doctors had to make a decision who should get the ventilator, who should not get the ventilator. Some nations, some hospitals decided on the basis of the age. What this means is, me and my mother went to the hospital. So we decide, my mother should die, I should live. How do I live with that? Or if me and my daughter went to the hospital, they will decide, I should die, my daughter should live. Younger people, the younger person should live, older person should die. How do you make such decisions? But unfortunately, in challenging times, we are forced to make such decisions. Not able to take these decisions, in some of the hospitals, they did it by flip of the coin, they took lots. They took lots who should live, who should die. So, during challenging times, we are forced to take hard decisions. When we are required to take hard decisions, it's important we put our humanity at the highest place and take those decisions, but hard decisions are inevitable, we have to take. I'm trying to give you a simplistic answer. I know it's not that simple because we as an institution also facing this in a big way. One simple thing is, because there was a textile unit which at one time employed over 20,000 people, and they were in that kind of, they had to roll down or roll back. So at that time, I gave them some ideas and it worked brilliantly well for them because they made it work. An idea is there, but still to make it work execution is another aspect. They did it extremely well. One simple thing is to get all the employees together and make them take this decision. That is, see, right now, let's say, I'm just shooting the numbers off the cuff, okay? Let's say we are 100 people working here. We need to fire 50 people because the business can only afford that. Another way is we call these 100 people, tell them, see, 50 people will lose their livelihood. Or all of us compromise our lifestyle and we will cut down the salaries by 30% or 40% or 50%, whatever it takes. And we will also help to negotiate rentals and other loans and whatever they may have, we help them. We put a few people to help them to renegotiate those things or postpone those things, whatever, to ease some financial things. These 50 people, what do you do? Because your business has become half the size, what do I do with these 50 people extra? 50 people dedicated and wanting to build the business back is an immense asset, never underestimate that. If you use these 50 people with some ingenuity, because now they know it is their survival and they want the company to succeed, they might not have seen it like that till now. They may just think it's a job. But today when they understand they're part of the company and they have to make this company successful, otherwise their own livelihood and the sacrifice that another 50 people have made to take half salaries for their sake, all this will weigh heavy on them. And we should explore other possibilities, how these 50 people can be used. There will be many opportunities anywhere. As I said, this is a developing country. There are so many things. You're in construction industry, but you could do something else on the side. There are 50 people extra committed to working hard and making something happen. definitely we could use in so many ways. As the business improves, we can absorb them, or that itself, the new activity can become a business by itself. Just to, not trying to be over smart with you because you are the builder, all right? I don't want to give you advice on that. But I'm saying there are so many allied things which are not being done properly, which always you depend on suppliers. And I know in construction industry in India what kind of suppliers, how many times you have to run after them. It's not like you give an order and something comes to you. You must give an order and you must go and see if he's actually doing it, then you have to go and see whether he is transporting it to you or not, 100 different things. I know how it is. So, having said that, these allied industries you could explore as to how this extra labor that you have can be used there or whatever. I'm just saying, this is just one possibility. Maybe you can't retain all the 50, maybe you can retain 25. Maybe you can retain 10, we don't know how many. But this is an effort we can do. This will bring a new sense of commitment for the well-being of the industry or the business itself among the employees. They understand clearly, it's only our contribution which makes this company successful. The success of the company is the basis of my well-being. This must be understood by every employee. They all become in some way partners to you, and you can also promise them with this sacrifice of 50% salary when you work, when we succeed, when we reach this much of turnover, we will give you something out of that. You know, these things have to be done. These are challenging times. All of us have to think differently, how we are going to do the work that we have been doing till now. It is business as usual is not going to happen. Sit back and, I will just announce a project and it will sell, that itself has already changed. And it's going to change in a dramatic way. This does not mean it's bad times, it is just challenging times. Are we up for the challenge or not is the only question.
Thank you, Guruji. I would say, yat bhavana tat bhavati. The way you think is what you get. And we are very nicely, very simply put by you, and I think all of us should follow your advice, and everybody will be happy.
Thank you for that, Sadhguru. I would like Mr. Rajiv Talwar to put the next question to you. He's Talwar by name.
Namaskar, Sadhguruji. I've had the pleasure of meeting you at the DLF golf course once when you were having breakfast. Tough course, all right. It's a tough life, yes. And for 74 years, DLF has existed. I hope you like the city that we've built and helped everyone. With everyone's help, we've reached where we are in Gurgaon and other cities of India. My question to you is, in your view, you're a very wise man. You have great intellect, precise wisdom, and great foresight. But I'm also happy to learn that you've presented plans to the government which have still to see the light of day, and you're sharing ideas with them. We have the same fortune. We also keep on going back to the government. I think what you've hit upon is very correct, that there should be some digital clearance so that everyone does not have to run around for getting clearances, plan sanction, time after time. My question to you is, what you seem to be speaking from your heart, that what is going to be the relationship between environment and urbanization in the post or in the pandemic world? What do we foresee according to you? Thank you.
See, one thing that's happened in the country and probably almost everywhere, particularly in this country, is building industry and ecology are supposed to be against each other. This is something that we must change because that is not the future, how it's going to function. Future is very important, that building and ecology must be friendly to each other. When I say friendly to each other, right now, as you know, almost all the cities are going through either floods or through droughts, they have water shortages and they have floods all the time. One season you need a boat Another season you you need an oil rig, not a regular borewell, because water is going below 1500 feet. So, this is the constant dilemma that's happening. One important thing I would request and beseech all the builders is, wherever you make concrete pathways and concretized walkways and things, they must have sufficient percolation holes. It is not necessary everybody should walk on a smooth surface. You can always make it in such a way that it absorbs water, because this is one of the key things. The reason why cities have become very destructive is simply because the rainwater, because that's the only source of water we have in this country. If it was, let us say, we had snowfall or whatever, snow would sit for 2 months and slowly percolate into the earth. We don't have such a thing, we just have monsoon rains. When rains come, if it flows horizontally, we have lost it. It has to percolate. For this we need plantations, and above all, concrete surfaces except the living areas has to have holes in it, has to have sufficient percolation spaces. All the parking lots, walkways, roads inside the development, all of them must have sufficient opportunity for the water to sink in. If that is not there, developments, large developments will naturally be perceived as anti-ecological well-being. So, having said this, as we already mentioned, we have 1.4 billion people. The land on which these 1.4 billion people is definitely not sufficient to have enough forests, enough rivers, enough lakes and all this. Compared to, let's say, North America, if you're taking North America as a standard, we are nowhere near that kind of land space. This is super congested in many ways. One important thing is to spread them out, and if this, as we mentioned earlier, if daily travel and commuting on the road is brought down. I was… a couple of years ago, I was near San Francisco, then I had an event in San Francisco Club. The top business in San Francisco area, about 250 business leaders were there and I was to speak to them, and I was driving. Then I'm seeing the side on which I'm driving also the traffic is thick, and the opposite side also the traffic is thick. So when I went there, all these business leaders, I asked them, what is our problem? People who live here work there, people who live there work here. What is our problem? I live here, why don't I work here? And somebody lives there, why don't they work there? No, he lives there and works here, I live here and work there. This is our problem. Because unplanned development of cities have happened, it is time to restructure this, because the number of people on the road, the amount of life that is lost in terms of time, the amount of energy that is wasted, amount of fuel wasted, and above all the nuisance. Those of you who live in Bangalore, Irfan Bhai knows this very well. He's right now sitting on the golf course near Nandi Hill, he's very happy now. But if he gets into the city, it doesn't matter what you're driving, it's a misery. Because simply too many people are on the road unnecessarily. When I say unnecessarily, why is everybody traveling in every direction? Because the fundamental thing is, it's planned like this, those who work here live there, those who live there work somewhere else. So, this has to change. In a planned way, we have to change. It's not easy, that it's not going to happen overnight, but if we start thinking in this direction, then ecological concerns can be addressed. And above all, vertical growth of the cities is most essential. Most people, our ecology activists are there, they will complain about everything because they don't understand a thing. But if you have substantially tall buildings, you can create a whole lot of open spaces, lots of trees. This is most important. As you know, so you're in Delhi, so you know this is the only city where we can see the air we breathe. I hear that now you cannot see it, you're able to see Himalayas or something, that's fantastic. So I'm saying too many people who are not some race drivers or something, they're not people who are enjoying their drive, they just desperately want to get to their workplace. They're all driving their own personal vehicles, which is risk of life, inefficient way of driving, and putting them to lot of stress and anxiety of trying to get there on time. And you see how it is Anybody you can hardly see a car which is not dented these days in our cities. It has some dent, that means everybody is bumping each other and screaming at each other, cursing each other. It's a wrong culture we're building altogether. It's very, very important that city should be a pleasant place to live. I remember Bangalore city 40 years ago and how it was. What a nice, pleasant thing it was. We used to ride from Mysore on motorcycles, come to Bangalore. Mahatma Gandhi Road was a racetrack for us But today, how it's become. So, further as economy improves, people want to live better. That means, live better means most people want to own a home where you will provide, and most people want to have a car. And the roads are simply impossible for the population that we have. If everybody drives one car, it's simply impossible. You cannot even provide a parking space for all the cars. So it's important that most people who just want to go to some place, they're not trying to enjoy their drive, such people should have mass transport to get there, very efficient mass transport, easy to get there without risking their lives. The number of people who are dying on the street, every year about 140,000 people are dying on the Indian roads. These 60 days, their lives have been saved, that's one good thing that's happened. And every 12 minutes, a limb is lost in the country. Every 4 minutes, there is a fracture in the country. The WHO at one time said, India is trying to become a major economy, but by some 2030, they estimated some 17 or 18% of Indian people will be crippled just by road accidents. So how are you going to build this economy with so many crippled people is a question that they raised at that time. So a lot of people here in Coimbatore and Chennai, they're trying to raise this awareness and try to make roads safe. But how to make it safe when there is no alternate means of transport, or when there is a compulsion, everybody has to drive to get to his work? How do you make it safe? It doesn't work like that. So ecologically concerned city, one important thing is we must take care of the soil and the water. If we do not take care of the soil, we cannot take care of the water, let's understand this. So if those two things must be taken care of. Right now, the streets are flooding. Why are city roads always smooth? They need not be. They can be like how you make concrete lattice. It can be like that, it'll make some rumbling noise, but it's okay, but the water will get soaked into the earth, which is most important for a city. Otherwise, your trees will not grow, nothing will be there, and soil will not be rich. Taking care of the soil and water, not two different things. If you take care of the soil, water is naturally taken care of. If that happens, then vertical buildings and more foliage all over the place will make our cities livable. Right now, except those who can afford large homes, for most other people, Indian city is actually quite unlivable. That's where we are going. I want to move into Irfan's property. There is a golf and there is a hill next to his property, so
Guru, when you mentioned your ride Mysore to Bangalore, I was hoping you'd say it was one of the Yazdi Road Kings at that point of time, and I've done that ride many a time. And it was lovely seeing you on a Java. For those of you that don't know, Sadhguru is a great rider. And I hope to someday ride with you, Sadhguru, on a Java.
why not?
Can I call on Mr. Shrikant Joshi to ask the next question, please?
Thank you, Bowman, and Namaskar, Sadhguru. We are really happy with your clear directions and the thought process so far. We at L&T are really happy and proud to do most of the infrastructure for the country, and to that extent, whatever we help in building the nation, all the employees are really happy to do that. My question to you is on the current dilemma for the next 4 or 5 years. We have seen what has happened to the migrant laborers and how they were all forced to go back. While at L&T, we took care of about 60,000 labor, but as soon as the trains are starting, more than half of them want to go back, and which is understandable. But the reason they came firstly to the cities is because there was no livelihood in that village for them. Living on Manrega and the government doles for years is also not a very graceful solution.
At the same time, in the cities, there's a need, and the construction technologies will take 2-3 years by the time you find a way to do with less labor. So, what are the directions for the next 3 to 5 years till this structural difference happens? How to live with both in a very, should I say, harmonious manner? Your direction would be happily appreciated.
Well, the labor is not gone for good. As you said, only because there's no livelihood they've come to the city. As you know that these days they're coming with their families, many of them, but most of them are male and their women folk and their children are elsewhere, so they have to go back. Right now they went back not only because of their comfort or discomfort or insecurity in the city, they're very concerned what's happening back home. And also monsoons are coming, and in case they want to start some agricultural activity for the next few months, they have to be there on time to lease lands, get into activity and all this stuff. So all these, there are many factors. But inevitably they will come back. In my estimation, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking, those who have gone back are not going to come back immediately. Probably they will wait for Diwali to be over. That may sound a little ominous for the construction industry, but this is my guess that they will not come back till Diwali. That is, if this virus fear goes away by September, they will come back somewhere later part of October. But if this continues to the end of the year, like in United States, they're predicting there is going to be a winter second wave. Even when the Spanish flu happened, the real death toll happened only in its second wave. We cannot compare the Spanish influenza to this COVID virus right now. They're two different things. But that's the only standard we have to compare, so we keep comparing, but they're not actually comparable. They're very different kind. They killed a completely different age group. That virus largely killed between 20 to 40 years. This is killing largely over 70 years of age. So it's a different affair. But because we don't have any other standard to measure, we keep going back to Spanish flu. But the second wave was much bigger than the first wave with the Spanish flu. That also started in the month of January, but August, September became the worst part. So we have to just wait and see. Now we are opening up the economic activity. I think yesterday, 24 hours, it's been the biggest surge in India in terms of number of infections. These numbers are not really a gauge, because it could be just the amount of testing we are doing, that it's increasing the numbers. So there is… See, at times like this, statistics and numbers should be used like how a drunken man will use a lamppost, only for support, not for illumination. This doesn't give us any clear picture, but it is just the only thing we can lean on and make guesses. So this is still a guess, but my guess is they won't come back. Large part of them will not come back till Diwali. So I think it's best the construction industry plans accordingly. Instead of sitting here and waiting for the labor to come, I think you should send people out there, build confidence and provide accommodations here and say, this time when you come, we will make sure we will take care of your medicine, food, this, that, whatever works, and you come back and work for us and whatever, you have to do within the industry, you have to do either as individual businesses or as a whole industry, whichever way you do it. I think that approach is very needed, that every time there is some kind of an emergency, people should not leave their work and run away somewhere else. That confidence you must build, you must use these few months to build that confidence with them, communicate with them and see how to bring them. Generally, as far as I know, you should know better, all of you, because you're dealing with them directly. In my understanding, I think most labor in the cities are being brought by maybe a few dozen agents who are coming. These agencies are completely out of control agencies, they're exploiting them heavily, there are so many issues there. I think it's time you set up a body to bring so many labor. Let's say you're in Mumbai or Bangalore or wherever, how many construction labor do you need? All of you get together, create a kind of a body which brings in, let's say we want 1 lakh labor to come in. How to bring them in? what is their mode of transport, where will they be, what will happen, all these things if they are looked at, you will have much control and better service. Of course, between businesses there is competition, how to do this is something you must figure out. But for long-term well-being of the industry, I think we must ensure there is a continuous flow of labor. Right now, if you are thinking of diversifying into more mechanized ways of doing things, as you said, it'll take 2 to 3 years to do that. But this is a good time to do because a whole lot of construction industry is getting various inputs from China. How to manufacture as much as possible here, I know there is price, there is issues and everything, but this is the time when there is a geopolitical shift. If we want to take advantage of that, this is the time we should do it. I was talking to a very major, who's become a dear friend, he's the biggest builder in Russia. He's built 40% of the housing in Russia is built by this one company. And the three companies that he runs are the top 3 companies which are in competition with each other, but all 3 companies are owned by one person. That's how he runs his business, and because in Russia, beyond a certain point, if it goes, it comes to government's focus, they're doing something like that. It's a very large industry. So he wanted to come to India and I asked him, what can you do? Like, what is it that you can do that Indian companies cannot do? He said, I can build 50 million square feet of residential buildings in 60 days. I thought that was too kind of exaggerated word. He said, Sadhguru, you don't hesitate, you get me an opportunity, clear things for me in your government, I can build 50 million square feet in 60 days, I have full-scale industries, I can transport anywhere and build what you want. So if they have that kind of scale and capability, I don't know, you must be better judge of that number, but if not that number, whatever number, I think we need to move in that direction, but at the same time we have the responsibility of providing employment for all these poor people who have no other livelihood. So creating some kind of a body to get them with least amount of exploitation from these agents and others is one aspect that you could look at it. It's not that it's going to fix all the problems, but we could start moving in that direction. And labor in India must be used. If you don't use them, mechanize everything, then what is the point? How… because after all, people have to live, we have to take care of that. A large company like L&T, I'm sure you have your own plans to do that. And many products which are coming from China, we should start looking how to do this because the world is moving in that direction.
Integration and taking care of the labor, I think that was a very good idea to propagate that they will be safe. Sadhguru, before I ask Vikas Oberoi to speak, may I seek your permission? We may go a little beyond time. Thank you. Vicky, would you like to ask the next question?
Namaskaram, Guruji. Firstly, thank you for taking this webinar and enlightening us with your knowledge. You did touch upon the fact that India has been a developing nation for a very long time. Guruji, we all know and we all agree that India is a rich country, blessed with natural resources and fertile land. We also have the largest number of doctors, engineers, and scientists in the world. We have space-age technology and have been to Mars and back. Yet, it pains me to see that we are unable to provide basic drinking water, sanitation, housing, education, and healthcare to people. Why do you think we have failed as a society? And what can we do to really change this, Guruji? Your guidance, please.
Well, you're drawing me into political issues. Well, we must understand this. When the British left this nation in 1947, we were not really a nation. We were in a terrible economic condition and illiteracy was 93%, I think, at least 90%. And our average life expectancy of an Indian was 28 years. Today it is 73 or 74 years. That's a phenomenal achievement for any 33 crores. Today it's inching towards 130 crores. So in 72 years, we've multiplied our population 4 times, not necessarily by excessive reproduction, it's simply because life expectancy has gone up, which is a very wonderful achievement for a nation. So when we postpone death, we should have also postponed birth, which we were little slow on doing. But right now, we are who we are, we have the population that we have, and because of this life expectancy improving, we have demographic advantage of having a young population. But a young population is a lot of nuisance if they're unfocused, unskilled, uncommitted to anything. They're a big nuisance. But if you have a young population which is inspired, focused and competent, then we can be a miracle. So essentially, we have not… we did not understand or we did not focus on understanding that nation is people. Nation is not dams, nation is not bridges, nation is not this and that. Nation is people. Without having high-quality people, there is no high-quality nation. So, our focus has been little bit off, but I cannot complain on that because for the conditions in which we were, from 90% illiteracy, today we've brought it down probably to 10–15%. I think almost every child in the country, including villages, is going to school, male and female children are going to school, which is all phenomenal. You can always talk about and compare to some other country and comment about it. But I think what India has done is really good. Our only problem has been we also, as we bred population, we also bred corruption, which has been a cancer eating our nation from within, that we have come to a place we can't trust each other anymore. We cannot just talk to each other as men. When I say men, when a man says something to another man, it must be a word of trust, otherwise how do you operate? Every day I have to espionage on you to find out what you're doing behind my back is a very hard way to live. Unfortunately, we have come to that place where we are pushing the population to that place where nobody can trust anyone, everybody has to be investigated. If you are straight, you are a big question mark. What is wrong with you? If you don't do anything wrong, there must be something seriously wrong with you. This kind… corruption, not just at the government level, it's just entered everything. It's just entered every aspect of life. That is easier spoken